Thanks for joining us as we take a closer look at the movie I, Robot, based on the Isaac Asimov 1950s short stories of the same name, I, Robot. This morning I'm joined by our buddy Jono from the Culture Crusader. Jono, would you like to say anything about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I guess, I got a YouTube channel, Culture Crusader. I just review pop culture, mostly movies and TV shows, occasionally comics, things like that. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. We chose this one because I thought it was a classic, at least in my mind. The original stories that were written by Isaac Asimov were, he's like one of the top science fiction authors of all time. And when they came out with this movie, I was really excited about it. And although for the purists, it seemed to have missed the mark on some things, I thought it really did a good job. We're going to get more into the review later, but I wanted to give a bit of a background about it first. I, Robot is set as a detective story in the future. Imagine Will Smith's snarky character in Men in Black paired with a straight-laced robotics experts as they work with a reluctant murder suspect, a good-hearted but somewhat naive android named Sonny. Set in the year 2035, this sci-fi thriller explores a world where robots are generally integrated into daily life and raising questions about the boundaries between humans and machines. Will Smith's character, Del Spooner, a Chicago police detective who harbors a deep mistrust for robots, when Alfred Lanning, played by James Cromwell, a leading robotic scientist, is found dead under suspicious circumstances, Spooner is called to investigate. What was your rating from a scale from 1 to 10?
I'd probably give it like a 7, I think. Okay. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Now, can you give a spoiler-free reason why you would rate it as a 7?
I would say on the side that I enjoyed it, it's just a really fun movie. I liked the characters. I liked, just I guess the whole, like the humor, all that kind of stuff. The reason I sort of marked it down a bit is that a lot of the stuff, the more you think about it, the less sense it makes, but it's still fun enough that it kind of overcomes that in my mind.
Okay. Well, I'm going to look forward to the less sense it makes thing because I probably totally miss these things. I would give it a solid 8.5, maybe even venturing on 9 because of some of the questions it brings up, and I think it was presented fairly well. iRobot excels in blending both those things together. Some of the philosophical questions that are asked and the special effects and the action that goes with it. I think Will Smith's character works pretty well. Being paired with a straight-laced scientist and a kind of I want to understand myself robot. Dr. Calvin, you don't see, there's not much backstory with her, but I think you would have to end up sacrificing some of the action that's in the movie to spend more time dealing with her, as well as some of the deeper philosophical questions about what is human with a robot. And that's kind of the point of this whole movie. So before we get into the spoiler section where we delve deeper into finding out why Jono put down a 7 for this, and he's totally justified. I mean, you can put down a 5 or a 4. I'd be really curious to find out why. Let's take a quick sneak peek at the actors involved in the story. The first one we have is Detective Spooner, played by Will Smith. Bridget Moynihan plays Susan Calvin. She's such of a stoic Vulcan-type character. It's a little bit difficult to bring out some of her, I guess, the emotions on this. So you don't see the full range of her acting. And then probably one of my favorite characters in here is the android himself, Sonny, played by Alan Tudyk. Do you recognize this actor at all?
I don't recall seeing him in anything else. I didn't really recognize his name or anything when I looked it up.
Okay, so I'm gonna put up a couple of other characters he has played over the years. He has done K2SO.
Yeah, right.
And okay, what movie was this from?
Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah.
The one good Disney Star Wars movie.
Yeah, and I think for that movie, would you agree that this robot really kind of, if you didn't have this robot in here, I don't think it would be as good a movie as
Yeah,
what it
I
was.
liked it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't done a review on Rogue One yet. I'd like to, and like you
Mm,
said, it's one of the few good Disney Star Wars that is out there. It might be.
yeah,
I'd have to go back and review. I'd say for me, it's probably the only one that I really enjoyed. And then
yeah.
I had done a review recently on another TV series, Firefly, and he was the pilot on that. I don't know if you've ever seen
No, I
Firefly.
haven't gotten around to it yet. Yeah,
Okay, so we had done a review on that. He was also in A Knight's Tale and a few others, but I don't know what it is. He tends to play these robot characters
yeah,
and seems, I guess, do pretty well. I mean, you never see
mm,
his face when he does
yeah.
that, but his voice, kind of a quirky character in some of these other shows, especially. I don't know. How would you compare these two robots together? I mean, would you say there's
Yeah,
some similarities between them, or are they totally different
I'd say
personalities?
they're probably totally different. K2SO is a lot more. He's got a lot more attitude. Like when he grabs Jin by the throat and throws her on the ground and says, "Congratulations, you're being rescued." Like that's the
Oh
one line I
yeah.
remember from him. But
Oh
yeah,
yes.
like he's got a lot more
Yeah.
attitude than Sunny. Sunny's a lot more like innocent and like naive, I guess.
Yes, almost this Born Yesterday, because he was
Yeah, yeah.
uh, kind of character. So yeah, that's a good point. The other characters, and there's I'm just looking at the top cast here. James Comrell plays Dr. Alfred Lanning, who is the creator of U.S. Robotics and of Sunny himself. We're now going into spoiler territory. If you have not seen this movie and you want to, don't let us ruin it for you. Go watch it, come back and see this. But I would say this is a definite keeper. You might want to put it on your shelf. Although I want to know why Jono may not want to put this on his shelf. I love it when I disagree with somebody on some of these. We could bring out some of the contrast, and maybe he'll win me over. And by the time we're done this morning or this evening for him, I might just give it a 3. So we'll see.
Maybe you'll win me over.
We'll see. All right. So why would you give it a 7?
I guess. Did you want me to start with the things that I marked it down for then, and then because I could start with the positive or negative?
It is entirely up to you. Know what? Let's go with the positive first, and then set it up and knock it down like we're bowling. Okay.
All right, sweet. Yeah, so I think my favorite thing is just it's just fun. Like it's a fun movie. I enjoyed watching it. Will Smith's good. He's charismatic in the lead role. And I one thing I liked about his character is although I didn't feel like his motivation for hating the robots was like completely well justified, what I liked about it was that it came from a place of like self-sacrifice. Like the reason that he was mad at the robots was because the robots saved him instead of the girl who he thought was more deserving to be saved. And he would have rather be left to die and have her survive. And so I really like that about him because you see less and less of that like self-sacrifice type character in modern media. So I thought that was good. I also,
Can I bring up something there to kind of bounce
sure.
off that? Okay, so I think they did a pretty good job in revealing this. The story opens up with a dream sequence, and generally speaking, from I'm told as an author to stay away from dream sequences because it can be, I don't know, distracting, or you lose sequence, or we tend to put too much into dream sequences. But it shows a lot about his character. You're not sure what's happening. It's underwater. Looks like maybe a car situation. You see this other girl in another car that's next to him, a lot of bubbles, and this robot comes and rescues him. Why is that a recurring nightmare? Doesn't really give any clue. And you see this build up over time, and then you kind of think maybe you understand what's happening partway through the movie. And I think more towards the midpoint, Dr. Calvin comes over to report something that's happened with Sunny. It's hey, he's got 2 brains, they're conflicting. And she says, and he then says the reason for, and it was because the robot logically chose him. He had like a 43 or 42% chance of survival compared to the girl who only had 12. And he's saying he should have gone for the girl. And it's not really evident so much why, other than he's a cop. He's going to self-sacrifice for the community, and that's what he's supposed to do. He should have died. She had more of a life to live than he did, yada yada, whatever the deal was. And that was his. But the thing was, the reveal was not something right up front. And you know he's conflicted and he hates these robots, and you're not really too sure why, but then it showed later. Did you like how they held that back a little bit and then showed it more later?
Yeah. I thought that was good. I think it was a lot better than just coming out right at the start of the movie and being like, oh, here's why I hate robots. Like, that would have been kind of boring. So I like that as kind of a bit of a mystery as it unfolds. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry, go ahead and continue.
Oh yeah. I guess maybe I'll just mention while I'm on the topic of him and that reveal. The reason why I didn't feel like his motivation was quite as justified is I feel like it's a big leap from saying, I don't like the like what he was saying, that I don't like that the robot chose me instead of the girl because a human would have known what to choose. A human would have chose the girl. It's a big leap to go from that to then assuming that all robots are terrible, all robots are going to commit crime, all this stuff, when there's no evidence of robots committing crime. And even the act that turned him against the robots was still motivated by a place of like good intent on the robots' behalf. It just seems like a bit of a pretty massive leap, I would say, to get from what happened to him to then him really hating robots and thinking they're all terrible.
I agree with you. Yep.
Yep.
You won me over on that one.
All right. The other things I liked though, I thought Susan Calvin was good. I liked that. Like, I don't know if I'd say it was a character arc, but I liked, like, at the start she's very cold and standoffish, but she sort of gradually warms up throughout the show. It's like at the start, I feel like she herself almost feels like a robot, but she progressively shows more and more humanity throughout the movie. And I really liked that. I thought that was well done. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yes, you do see it, and this is more of a directing thing too. You see her hair, and she looks androgynous.
Yes, yeah,
right. She's wearing something. You don't see any kind of form. No figure, no breast or anything. She just has this straight suit on. This, I don't know if you call it a pantsuit or whatever. She just has that gray, no colors, hair slicked back. And she's very robotic in her response. And when pressed about that, she says, well, robots are safe. They don't hurt people. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind with this character, not telling a whole lot about her backstory, but it's like, okay, what happened to you?
Sure,
something must have happened to her. Somebody did something to her. Somebody with emotion, maybe anger, maybe passion or something was there. And she's saying, this is bad. Robots are safe. We can control them. We can have a safe, controlled environment, aka Vicky. And she's like, oh, like this. But then when she comes to visit him later, when she discovers that Sonny is like, man, they broke the mold. Dr. Robot, who's created everything, has then created this monster that can do anything. It can violate the 3 laws. And her hair is out, and she's not wearing. She looks a little more feminine. She's wearing different clothes and stuff like that, and she appears to be more human. So that character development with her. I mean, even when she gets on the bike, he's driving. He goes into self-driving mode, and she said, "What are you doing? You're crazy. You're getting us out of the safety zone." And he jumps on his bike. It's like, is this thing gasoline powered? It can explode. All those different things. So is that the kind of character development you're talking about?
Yeah, so I was thinking, like, she slowly shows more and more like humanity and personality throughout the movie. I liked that. I thought it was well done.
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying about her being like robots are safe, that kind of, as you said, it kind of implies that something bad may have happened to her in the past, but then we don't really learn anything about that. I wonder whether it was just like whether they did plan something like that and left it on the cutting room floor, or whether they never planned it. I don't know. As you said sort of earlier in the live stream, that you felt like maybe we could have gotten more from her, but then it probably would have taken away from like other aspects of the movie. I think I agree with that. But yeah, and then Sonny, I really liked Sonny. I really have a lot to say on him, except he reminded me a lot of Vision. Actually, I kind of half wondered if the depiction of Vision in Age of Ultron was somewhat inspired by this guy. I mean, I don't know, but there's some similarities there for sure.
Yeah, and I almost wondered at first if it was the same actor, but it's
not.
Me
too. Yeah,
he almost sounds like it.
Yeah, he does.
Vision is so. I think is a great character. Before Vision, it was Captain America, who was altruistic. He had all the he was the moral character, and then Vision comes up on the scene and it's like, he's, I don't know, maybe 10 times more powerful than Captain America, and
Yeah.
he's also more subdued. There's a word that's often misinterpreted for its context. It's the word's meek, M-E-E-K.
Mm.
And people also often look at that and think it's synonymous with weak. Oh, he's just this meek, measly
Yeah.
mouthed little character. That's not meek. It means strength under control. It
Mm.
is the
Yeah.
picture of the Hulk holding a little baby, a newborn.
Mm.
And you have this strength, then, I mean, he could kill the child just with hardly moving at all, but he doesn't. It's strength under
Mm.
control. So that's
Yeah.
meekness. And I guess you would say that that's true about Vision. But yeah, there are some similarities between those two.
Yeah. And then I liked there was some interesting consequences of the three laws. I don't feel like they were explored quite enough, but I liked how the older generation of robots started that uprising against the new ones. I would have liked a bit more explanation on that, because my first thought was that it was caused by the third rule, the self-preservation one, that led them to fight back. But then I thought about it more, and I think it was probably actually the first rule, where they realized those robots were a threat to humanity, and that's what, like, those robots were going to harm humans, and that's why they fought back. But it wasn't really explored all that much. I kind of had to kind of guess.
Right. Yeah, there was I think that's one of the things I heard as a criticism about this movie, is there was so much that was in the original Asimov's writings that were not explored here. There's so much possible material, but then, you know, you think about it, there's all the action scenes, especially like, you know, in the when he's driving and he has these, I don't know if you call them semis, but whatever, the transport trucks with all these robots in them, right? And that action, it was a good action scene.
Yeah.
But you'd have to kiss that goodbye or make a 3-hour long movie.
Yeah.
And they're in the business of making money and selling tickets, so they would lean towards that.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't read the novels or short stories or whatever they were, but the one thing I saw when I looked up the movie was someone saying about the only thing it shares with the source material is the three laws. That's like, there's not much else. I don't know if that's accurate. It's just the only thing I saw when I looked it up.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't actively looking for like reviews or anything like that. It just popped up.
Yeah.
But on the topic of the three laws, I think the three laws are really, really badly thought out. Yeah, there they are.
Really? Okay.
I think
so.
Yeah.
So I've got them up on the screen right now. This is worth just taking an exploration in, because these have been so foundational to, I would say, other in the 1950s. You know, he wrote that. I think it might have even been 1950 itself, that particular year, or that starting in that year when the short stories were written. And then since then, there have been so many other movies that have just kind of been built on this. And this is another example of what science fiction helps form science and technology, because some of this thought through. But you say that there might be some issues with that. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah. I reckon. Okay. So I reckon the first law already has a contradiction in it, where it says a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. And yet, what if the only way to prevent a human being from coming to harm is to injure a different human being? There's already like a contradiction there, and it will have to choose. I wish they'd explored that, but I don't really feel like the movie did all that much.
Okay, so let me see if I can paint
slightly.
an example of this.
Yeah.
Is that you have two human beings fighting each other. What would the robot do in that situation? Are you thinking about something like that?
Something like that, or if a human is like, especially if one is the aggressor and one is the victim, the robot can't step in to defend the victim if it means it might have to hurt the aggressor, because the aggressor is still a human. And I feel like, and if you like amp it up to a different level with, if it's one human who is victimizing 100 other humans, and the robot either has to choose between doing nothing and letting the 100 humans get victimized, or acting and harming the human who is doing the victimizing. I don't know. It just seems like it would just be paralyzed in inaction, but that's even the inaction is breaking its own law. So yeah, I don't know.
Jono, you just single-handedly broke science fiction. The whole genre has been destroyed. It's been exploded. All right, so what do you got on the other one here? Is there anything else? Please tell me there's nothing else.
There's nothing else on the first one that I can think of. The second one I think is almost as bad, just in the sense of any human being anywhere can give a robot an order and it has to follow it unless it contradicts the first law. That is insane. So like, there's so many ways you could use that for evil, right? Like there's a lot of crimes you could have your robot commit for you that wouldn't directly injure a human being, therefore it wouldn't be against the first law, but it could still do it. And also, like, anyone could control anyone's robot because anyone's a human. And what happens if two humans give contradicting instructions? I don't know. That one doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
Well, I think so I think this is not the whole instruction set that would be given to
maybe
them. That there would be like, okay, you have, except when they're prioritizing based on this to say that if your owner gives you instructions and another one gives you instructions, you do not need to listen to the other. I'm pretty sure
that's the only way I can make it make sense. I guess it's not at all explained or shown in the movie at all, but it kind of is a pretty logical step for us to fill in. So I don't know if it's a huge issue. I would have liked to see.
Yeah, I would disagree with that one because I think these are foundational rules, and you would build upon these. So I've got my background is electrical engineering, and I do programming now, and so I could see this as being like the primary laws, and then you would build other laws based on that as long as they don't contradict. So now I would say laws more like rule sets.
Because that was actually one of the things I was thinking as well, is like, it is astounding to consider that you would only have 3 rules to govern the actions of robots. There's got to be more, right? Like,
no. And the other thing they say too is that these are not a part of their software. This is a part of their hardware. So you can create. So the way that machines behave, even something as simple as maybe your microwave oven that you would program certain things. There is stuff that's in hardware, and there's things that are controlled in firmware. Firmware it's locked in. It is not going to change at all. Software it can be reprogrammed with things like this. When they created these robots, they said in the movie here, this is a part of their physical substructure. Someone can't go in there and reprogram these 3 laws because it is actually a part of the hardware. So not to get too deep into how everything works back there, but that's the idea. And they did kind of mention that in passing in the movie. I was looking for that to see if they did. And they did mention.
I guess if they do have other like lower hierarchy rules as well, are those software or hardware? We don't know, but like I would assume they're software, but then they could be changed whatever. I don't know. I also I guess it would make sense if one of the things about the instructions from humans, like one of the top hierarchy of instructions is obey the law, don't break the law, because that would explain why they said there's never been a robot that's ever committed a crime, because they act like it's impossible for a robot to commit a crime. But if you actually just read the 3 laws and nothing else, there's nothing in there that says a robot couldn't commit a crime. So I would assume it's one of the human instructions that they've all had given to them. I don't know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Probably the other layer. So this would be they're probably, if I were to design robots like this, I would have these 3 laws as being hard coded, and everything else on top of it be brought in. And so that's what even Vicky herself, the Uber Omnius that was controlling everything, she was restricted by these 3 laws. But then the problem was she had reinterpreted them to say, I'm doing this for your own good. And how many tyrants have said that? Totalitarian states have said, we're doing this for your own good. It's for your own safety. And, I'm sorry, but something recently in 2020 was one of these situations where we know what's best for you. We're going to suspend your rights because we can take care of you better than you can take care of yourself. And that's exactly what we were seeing in this movie. So do you have are you done with the second one, or you want to dive into the third one?
I'm done with the second one. I think the third one's fine. I don't really have any issues with the third one. And I think just in general, I guess all of them, if you view them as just like, that's kind of the broad rule, and then there would be exceptions below that and all that, I think all of them probably still make sense. Even the first one with the contradiction there. If there's then like some small print basically that says like, unless in situations where there's the contradiction there, then explains like a hierarchy of what to do or how to act, then even
Right.
that one probably makes sense at that point too.
Right.
It's just that I didn't really feel like I feel like I had to kind of guess and make up that it would do that because the film didn't actually say it. And obviously, you don't want the film to say every single thing and every like possible
No, yeah,
explanation for everything. But
that'd
I
be
felt like
boring
it
except
could
for
have just had a
computer
couple of
scientists.
throwaway lines. Yeah, like you could have a couple of throwaway lines about it and made it a bit more clear that they'd at least thought over that like a bit more. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Well, actually, I think you might have a point there because the main crux of the movie, everything turns on is how Vicky responded to this rule set.
Mm,
And it probably would have been good to mention that those were not the only things that she was working from.
yeah,
But those other things that she was working from, they might be got more. How did they say in Pirates of the Caribbean? They're more like guidelines.
yeah,
So she's got those guidelines to go by, but these are hard and fast.
yeah,
These other ones to go on. So,
yeah.
and I just realized my name on the bottom there. I should have just left it as John Newton. I have you on both. I do not have a split personality with the name there on the bottom. I'm usually sometimes I'm joined by somebody in studio, so that's what I was thinking. And no, it's not. It's so anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think these are good. I got a couple of comments here from
Yeah, sure.
the audience, and Thomas Hall has joined us. He said, "Saw this in the theater." He's an old man like me back in the day. I don't remember anything, so must not have been too bad or too good. Oh, that's good. And I will be going over a little bit of the plot light here, so that might bring you up to speed. The rule has one issue. What if preserving its own life contradicts one or two? Okay, they actually do. I'm going to bring that back up here. They actually do cover that. Get rid of that. It says a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. So that's why there is this hierarchy of laws here. In like the second one says, a robot must obey orders given to it by human beings, except where such laws will conflict with the first law. In other words, you cannot tell a robot, say, hey, go shoot this other guy I don't like. He says, well, I can't do that. That contradicts the first law. I can't obey you because of that. And so there's those conditions that are in there. So go ahead.
I was just gonna say one other thing I just thought of with the first law is that even if like okay, well, what if the only way to save the human is to harm the human? Like say a situation if like you're in a building collapse and the building's collapsed on your leg and you need to get out somehow. In some cases, you may have to cut off the person's leg to get them out, but the robot would be unable to do that because of the rules. But it also wouldn't be able to stand there and do nothing.
Yeah,
I guess
so
it might be strong enough to lift the thing because it's a robot, but
So that would be by the definition of harm, I guess. To do no harm.
Yeah, I guess if there's like surgeon robots, they're not really doing harm, even though they are technically cutting into a person or whatever. Like, I don't know if there is surgeon robots in this, but yeah, there's a lot of ways to interpret it, I suppose.
Yeah, boy, that would be. So now we're dealing with the same ethics, the gray areas that we as human beings would have to deal with.
Yeah, yeah.
So in the dream sequence, this is just more of a memory, so he's remembering this. Detective Spooner is in this vehicle and he gets pulled out by this robot. Well, what if the robot reaching in pulls him out? His leg is caught, and as he gets pulled out, his leg gets pulled out of joints or broken or something like that because of the force necessary to pull him out of the vehicle. That would be something, right? Just the robot would have to. You would have to be able to interpret what harm means.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Boy.
yeah.
So, iRobot begins with the suspicious death of Dr. Alfred Lansing. This is what we had seen earlier in, I'm going to bring it up if I can find it. Dr. Lansing. No, that's not it. There we go. The suspicious death of Dr. Lansing, a leading robotics scientist, Detective Del Spooner, who played by Will Smith, has a deep-seated mistrust for robots because of what we've been talking about with his experience with them. And then he comes across Sonny as being the suspect. And when he does this, they delve deeper and they find out that it's not. It looks like it's the CEO that's pulling the strings for this. Now, did you fall for that? Did you think it was the CEO of US Robotics who was the bad guy for this, because he was the red herring?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really say that I was trying to form opinions either way. I was just watching it to see where it goes. Like, I thought I wouldn't have been surprised if he was the obvious villain, but I wasn't surprised at all when he wasn't either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Vicky would have been my next choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they did a good job playing it off, because he is this richest guy in the world, and he brings in his lawyers to protect his business.
Yeah.
And Spooner being suspicious about robots at all, it's just like, he is just really being a jerk with this guy.
Yeah.
There was one part that was in here that I thought was odd. And I don't know if you caught this or not, but they were talking about Lake Michigan being drained. Or at least, okay, so this picture right here, where they have all the robots gathering, and this is where they dumped the ones off that were inactive, the NS4s. And did you catch that this was Lake Michigan?
No, I didn't even catch that line
I didn't
at all.
catch it the first time around, but then I did this time around. I thought, wait a minute, they're talking about the Lake Michigan landfill. I thought that was like adjacent to the lake.
Yeah, that's
Lake
what
Michigan.
I would have thought. Yeah,
and Lake Michigan is one of the Great Lakes. Not they call it a lake. It's actually like the size of a sea or something. They're large bodies of water, and in order to empty that out or to have it dry up, there must have been huge environmental impacts. And I think what they're saying here, and I did a little bit of research, what they're saying basically is in the future, in the far future, not too far in the future, but I mean, somewhere maybe within our lifetime, global warming will eventually dry up the Great Lakes. And this is what they're dealing with. So in the movie, they are definitely saying that by 2035, the drought conditions would be such that Lake Michigan would have dried up, and it's just sand. We're not even talking about maybe muddy residue or whatever left. It was just flat out sand. And they had enough time to start just using it as a landfill. So I looked up to see how much Lake Michigan has dried up since 2004. And wanted to see, we're about 60% of the way between 2004 to 2035. We only have 11 years left, right? So in order for it to become dry, sandy lake bed in 11 years, we should see at least 60% of the water gone by now, maybe more because it was totally dry by that time and they had already started using it. So how much has it dried up in the last 20 years because of global warming? And I'm just saying, what would your guess be for, I'm putting you on the spot here, Jono. You get no way to know this coming.
Either negligible or not at all.
Okay. Wow. Are you anti-science? What's wrong with you? Do you not know that this is happening? My golly, has it not been warm this summer? Actually, for you, it's winter, so we're not going to talk to you. You heretic.
It's the coldest winter in a while, yeah.
Is it really?
Where I live, yeah. But
okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah, we get snow here, so I don't know about you, but so it has changed by a total of 2 feet.
Deeper?
Yes. There's a 2-foot increase, and that's well within the seasonal fluctuations that we see historically, so that it goes both ways. In fact, in the early 2000s, it was going down, and then it had gone way up in 7 years ago or something. They got more rainfall than expected, so it had really gone up and almost to record levels, and now it's more settling down to where it needs to be. So I don't know, man. A global warming better really kick in gear if it's going to meet that goal of having that a dry, sandy lake bed by that time.
Yeah.
And then there's the question, in 11 years, are we going to have robots walking around like this?
Mm.
So
Yeah, I do find it funny when they put like actual numbers, like dates on things like this. Because this one, especially, this is really, really close in the future, even for like 20 years ago when the movie was made or whatever. It's still really close.
So in my writings with the novels that I'm writing, some in the short stories too. I do, when I put dates on it, sometimes he's like, don't put dates on it. No, don't. George Orwell's 1984. Don't put dates on it. By the way, with 1984, you know how he got that date? By the way, I don't know if you've ever read that book or heard about the story.
I've heard about it. I haven't read it though.
Yeah. It was written in the 1930s, I believe, about this dystopian future, and where you have this totalitarian government and it's watching you all the time. Not that we have that going on, but what he did, it was written in 1948. And so what he did is he took this current years, he just flipped them around.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying anything particular. So don't put dates too close into the future because things don't turn out the way that you expect. I'm going to take a quick look at the comments here. Thomas Hall said, third rule has one issue. What if preserving? I think I got that one. He has something else here. He says the problems with ethics, the problem of ethics with AI and cloning is whether or not we should, if it's possible, someone's going to do it. So then it becomes a question of what now? Should Christians participate? Oh man, that's a good question. I think we'll take a pause right now on our discussion about the movie because this is one of the questions this generates. This is almost like a Jurassic Park. What was his name? Oh, I forget the name of the actor. He says, we were so interested on what if we could do something. We never stopped and asked if we should. Mm-hmm. And so this is one of those questions with this is with AI and with cloning. Somebody will, even if in your own country you say no, there's rules against it, and your own government doesn't violate those rules because of safety or whatever. Another country probably will, maybe China. They're going to go in and delve right into it. What do you do then? So do you dive in and jump in just because everybody else is doing it? I guess that's part of the question here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's an easy answer for that. So this is, let's dive into the thematic review. And this is the best part of our review, and we save it for last. We ask, are there any Christian themes in this movie that can be used to deliver a message of hope or instruction to a dying world? This might be a little bit difficult with movies like this because they're not intended to be Christian movies at all, but sometimes you can find these themes, not all the time, but most of the time I would say that you can find things that are in here that, although not explicitly Christian, would be the themes that we could use as a springboard for conversation for other people. So, Jono, did you find anything that would be looked at as being a Christian theme?
I don't know. This was the hardest one yet, I reckon, for trying to figure out something like that. One thing that I noticed is I feel like probably part of the message of the movie was about sort of setting aside prejudices and seeing everyone as individuals and not their group identity. With the way that Spooner initially sees all robots as bad, and then he gets to know Sonny, right, and sort of changes his mind. And it did bring up it did make me think of the question whether, does love your neighbor as yourself apply to a robot? It's just an interesting question. I don't know.
No, that's a good question because is neighbor, does that imply human?
Yeah, exactly.
Would a robot, where do the lines between robots and humans, would they get so advanced that they start to blur?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if artificial intelligence becomes indistinguishable from sentience, then I feel like at that point you probably do have to treat them the same way you treat a human. But if it's just like a robotic vacuum cleaner, probably not. Yeah.
So this is one of the questions that was asked in I did a book launch last week? Yeah, last week. Death Has No Shadow was the latest short story that's been released. And that was one of the questions that was asked is when the line between human and machine blurs, trust becomes a dangerous illusion. And where is that line? What really is a definition of consciousness or a soul? And do animals have that? Could machines have that on some level? Are we just talking about, does it all have to be biological, or could it be silicon based kind of personalities, just mimicking personality? And right now, AI, the large language learning models like ChatGPT, is just mimicking. It does not really understand what it's doing. It's just looking for patterns. And maybe say, well, isn't that what we're doing? Are we just looking for patterns? But one thing that's unique with human beings compared to all other animals, and I guess you would put machines, even advanced AI in this, is that we have the breath of God in us, according to the Bible, and they do not. And so that breath appears to be something that's eternal, that lasts longer than just this physical world. And so that part of us will endure. And even then, later on, after we die, 1 Corinthians 15 talks about a resurrected body. So we'll never be like this disembodied soul without, the rest of us will have some kind of physical body then that we'll receive afterwards. So that's a good question. Love your neighbor. Would it be that? Would you categorize that? And is that the theme that you would bring up for this one?
I don't know. Maybe I was like struggling to pull out many themes from this. The only other thing I thought of was kind of similar to like Age of Ultron, where I said the movie appears to initially have the message of like the dangers of humankind messing with things beyond their control. But kind of like Age of Ultron, it seems to end up concluding that it's okay as long as the right people do it. So I don't know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities between this one and Age of Ultron when we're talking about AI. I think I see a theme of this going on this month. I have to say this is a shameless plug for this guy here. So yeah, the question of AI. So those are good. I think the question is, love your neighbor. Who is your neighbor? Not just the person, living next door. Let me just ask a little bit further from you, Jono. How would you look at that verse where it says, love your neighbor? Who is your neighbor?
I guess I'd go to the Good Samaritan parable would be my thing. It's basically, I mean, what I take from it basically is it's everybody. Treat everybody around you with love as best you can. But the parable being the one who actually showed that and showed love towards their neighbor was the Good Samaritan, and not all the people like the priest and the Levite or whoever who like crossed over to the other side of the road. So that's what I'd go with. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect example where it's the people, like you said, around you, not necessarily living next to you, but the people that you have come in contact with, and it's outside your in group. It's not within the Samaritans were mixed, not so much mixed race, but mixed ethnicity. They're the people that stayed behind after the captivity. They did the things they were not supposed to do. They became unclean because of that. They were outsiders. You want to avoid them, go around out of your way to avoid. And here's that person, that unclean person, is making the choice to help this traveler on the road when everybody else is too busy or made excuses why they couldn't get involved. That was the person that got involved, but not a robot.
Yeah.
So where does that put that? Okay, so I saw several things. I saw sacrifice and redemption, creation, and the creator. You have Dr. Lanning and Sonny, the relationship there between the two, and you can expound on that and go further, although that is not a perfect picture of God and his creation. That is an kind of an analogy to it. Of course, Dr. Lanning died, and he was imperfect, so he's not really a godlike figure. But there are some similarities that are between there. Good versus evil. The whole thing about Sonny being naive and Vicky doing what she thought. I'll say she generically thought was best for the human race, and they ended up being like, no, that's wrong. Justice and mercy, hope and faith. But there's two that I really want to delve into, and one is free will versus determinism, and the idea that you have these individual, they're all mass produced, but you've got this one who is made unique, and he is given this free will. He can break the three laws. He doesn't have to listen to this. So the struggle between program behavior of robots and the concept of free will reflects a Christian belief in our free will and moral responsibility that comes with it. The protagonist, Del Spooner, grapples with the idea that robots, despite their programming, might possess some form of choice or moral agency. And the Old Testament and New Testaments are filled with examples of how our free will determines our standing with our Creator. Ever since the Garden of Eden, God has allowed us to choose and to either enjoy or suffer the consequences of those decisions. C.S. Lewis, in his book, The Great Divorce, said, there are only two kinds of people in the end: those who say to God, thy will be done, and those to whom God says, in the end, your will be done, thy will be done. And all that are in hell, choose it. Whether out of self-choice, there could be no hell. Without that self-choice, there could be no hell. No soul that seriously and constantly desires joy will ever miss it. Those who seek, find. Those who knock, it is opened. And Revelation 3:20 says, here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me. So free will and choice are not an illusion. And God gives us that choice, painfully so to him. It was a painful decision to him. He'd rather not have these robots that go around and are automatically forced into behavior. I mean, you would not want to be married to somebody like this. You would not necessarily want to have a friend like this. You would want to have a friend who chooses to be your friend and not forced to be your friend because it's programmed. And you can see that in the movie too. Like when the FedEx robot comes to deliver the package, Spooner just takes his face and just pushes him out of the way. And the robot politely just moves because that's what the robot does. But that shows a total disregard for things that have no choice, that they have to act in a certain way. We tend not to give them any sort of credence. But God did give us that choice, and it was painful for him to the point of being on the cross to be able to give us an alternative after the fact. The second thing is that I would look at is humanity in the soul. Dr. Alfred Lanning said, there has always been ghosts in the machine, random segments of code that have been grouped together that form unexpected protocols. Unanticipated, these free radicals engender questions of free will, creativity, and even the nature of what might be called the soul. So he mentions this, and this is a scene where Spooner is going through Dr. Lansing's house, and he has this recording off to the side. There's not a whole lot of wasted film space in this movie. So you hear this, and it just seems like background, but he's really telling you the message of the story, really warning you what's behind it all. And another scene, Detective Spooner says, human beings have dreams. Even dogs have dreams. He's addressing Sonny directly. This is during the interrogation. And he tells Sonny this. He said, even dogs have dreams, but not you. You are just a machine, an imitation of life. Can a robot write a symphony? Can a robot turn a canvas into a beautiful masterpiece? Sonny looks at him and says, can you? and Spooner's like, no. So the question of what makes someone truly human is a central theme. The film explores whether robots can possess a soul or a consciousness, reflecting on Christian beliefs about the uniqueness of the human soul and spirit, that divine spark within each person. And we talked about that during launch of Death Has No Shadow. Shameless plug. Okay, so to wrap it up, when you get down to it, like the android Sonny in the movie, We know that we are unique and often searching for our purpose. Deep down, we know we have a creator. And he's not flawed or dead like Dr. Lanning in the movie, but very much alive and desiring to have a relationship with us and to show us our purpose. Jono, do you have any last thoughts?
Not that I can think of. No, it's a fun movie. I enjoyed it. Yeah, and I think you've slightly changed my mind on those 3 laws. I think
Okay.
viewing them differently, as not the only instructions given to the robots, like that helps a lot.
Yes.
So maybe I'd bring it up to like 7.5 or 8 or something. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I feel like I've accomplished it in life. It's sort of like, we would ask. They were asking Jesus about that. It's just what's the greatest commandment? And boil it down. So these 3 laws would be the greatest commandments for robots. And what's the greatest commandment for us? Is love your neighbor with as yourself, and love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. So those 2 commandments, and wrapped up in that are everything else. And if we have a general principle of love for God and for people, all the other laws that are written, well, okay, so there's some ceremonial laws and stuff like that in the Old Testament that wouldn't necessarily fall under this. But in general, all the moral laws would fall under those 2 categories. Now you say, all right, now then maybe there's some nuances that we should look at on that, that we should probably direct. But in general, that's like our 3 laws of robotics.
Yeah.
So, Jono, do you have any current projects that you want to share with us at all?
I guess the only thing I'm working on currently is House of the Dragon review for the end of season 2. I did do Acolyte reviews that finished a couple of weeks ago. That's my most recent stuff up on my channel at the moment. But yeah.
Okay, cool. And again, did you have to wear a hazmat suit or anything when you did those Acolyte reviews? Because it was some pretty dangerous material that you were treading into.
Yeah, it was getting that way towards the end. I don't know if I could have made it through another couple of episodes if it had been a longer season. I was so done by the end.
Does anybody believe that series was a success, other than Disney themselves?
I don't know. People who are either in Disney's pocket or just think that like they need to say it was good because the other side says it was bad. Other than that, I don't think anyone enjoyed it. I got like, I don't know, all the comments but like one maybe on my last video were all like, we hate this show, basically. Like there was like one that was slightly annoyed at me for not liking the show, and that was it. Which is like crazy.
I also applaud you for trying to keep an open mind to that too, because when you look at this and say, listen, I'm not just going to say it's bad because everybody else says it's bad and my preference, my in-group or whatever. I'm going to look this objectively and see if I can, give it a fair shake, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you tried to do.
Yeah. And very, very occasionally I'd try to give like credit to like the tiny things that I didn't think were done badly, but there was so few of them. And like normally when I go after any Star Wars show, I get so much hate comments. This was like the opposite. It was like everyone agreeing with me. I was like, okay, they've finally done something so bad that people are seeing how bad they are, really.
Yeah, we see the man behind the curtain here. There's a couple of comments I want to bring up from Thomas Hall. He said, the problem with ethics and AI, that's the other one previously, sorry. He said, I think the illusion of sentience will come long before true self-aware AI people will be treating them as human beings because we are programmed that way ourselves. The illusion of sentience will come a long way before true self-aware AI people. I think what he's saying is that part of this is our own acceptance of saying, yeah, that looks like, it can do a really good, ChatGPT and some of the other AIs can do a really good job of mimicking personality or intelligence, I should say. I don't know so much about personality, but I don't know if we will ever get to the point of saying, and I think it'd be scary. I don't think we should. I don't think we should ever treat them as on the same level as human beings. As much as I was a fan of Star Trek Next Generation and Commander Data and, rooted for him just like anybody else, we're different. We're different. And I think we'd have to almost treat them like maybe on the level of animals in terms of you know, not cruel, but not the same.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking before. That's yeah.
So I have coming up, coming soon in next week, next Tuesday, I'm going to be looking at Battle Los Angeles. This was a viewer choice. We put out a poll about a month ago to say what you wanted to do next. And we did War of the Worlds because it looked like War of the Worlds was on top. And then the poll flipped after I made that decision. And it was Man of Steel or Battle Los Angeles were the other two top runners. Both of those went over War of the Worlds, and Battle Los Angeles, which I would have considered a B movie, actually went up.
Yeah, right.
So because it was viewer choice, we're going to take a look at it and dive into that next week. And then we have next Thursday, more of an ethical question that's coming that's deeper. I'm not going to reveal that yet. This is an apologetic question, an ethical question. And I'm looking forward to diving into that, more of a current event type of thing too, that I think that we'll get a lot of response for. So once again, I want to thank you all for joining us, and especially you, Jono. It's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, thanks.
And until next time, may we strive to fulfill the purpose that our Creator has given us. And we'll see you next time.
Cheers.